Welcome along to one of the most interesting videos of the season, where we take and have a look and review some of the changes that Hutch are putting in for the 2024 season change. Now, yes, 2023, a year pretty much gone already, another season done, and we're about to launch into their new version, new and improved, hopefully, game coming up. So, we're going to dive into some of the changes that are coming up. We've got some images to enlarge in the screen so we can see them clearly. And there is some big changes coming this season. Now, you might have noticed already this weekend in GP that you saw different players in your GP groups, vastly different flag ranges, and you also may have seen matchmaking changes as well. So from my understanding, there was no expectation to implement any such changes early on, but obviously Hutch are preparing for the new season, and maybe it is a hint of what is to come. But let's get into season change for 2024. And it's very important. Comment down below. I want to hear your thoughts because you are the players, and any feedback that I can give to Hutch is valuable. So make sure to pop a comment down below. So let's take a look then. We're not going to read all of this religiously, but we are going to read the bits that I feel we need to. So up to the 2023 season, we know how it's been. So if you've been around this season, then you would have noticed this. It is currently, you may not have noticed my setup, but this is a setup in F1 Clash 23. The one thing you will notice that the predominantly stat is cornering. That is because cornering is the best stat on the game, regardless of how low your speed is. To have cornering best you can is ultimately the best setup. Now, if you're only just learning that, where have you been? But cornering was the key, and Hutch never designed it that way in the F1 Clash 2023 season. It just happened to fall that way. You might have seen the new introduction of the Las Vegas circuit this season, and that basically allowed speed to take more of a priority. And of course, now we know why they picked that, because they were implementing this for the new season. So we have now got, in a nutshell, we are going to have tracks with different stats. So we are going to have tracks that prioritize cornering. We're going to have tracks that prioritize speed. What does that mean? Potentially different setups for different tracks. No specific setup anymore. It is time to now have a think and see what you think is best. So two stats will have an outstanding impact, and I'll try and just so you can see it here, on each track in 2024. These are called track stats. Worth focus on to achieve the best performance. That's what you need to do. So players choosing to customize their loadouts to harness these track stats will notice a distinct advantage over those who utilize a more generalized setup. So what they are saying there is, if you pick a balanced setup at, I'm going to take a random guess here, Monza. Now I expect Monza to be a speed circuit. If you pick a very balanced setup, I imagine you might be a little bit faster in the corners, but down the straight you may suffer. Whereas somebody who picks a speed setup will bout away down the straight, struggle a little bit more in the corners. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that works. So they go on to mention then, each series will focus one specific track strat. So e.g. Series 5 features cornering as one of the track stats on every single track, while the second track stat will be determined by the track itself. So in regards to Grand Prix, tracks will feature the same track stats as in duels, but since the Grand Prix tracks are known in advance, you can obviously focus on both your driver and your component stats. What they're basically saying is, in duels, you're going to have one stat which is permanently boosted. The other stat might change dependent on the track, but you never know which one you're going to get in duels. Whereas in GP, you obviously know in advance what is coming up, so we can prepare if I actually get my words out. So this is what we have at the moment in series in duels. Plain and simple, it is simply series 12. It's got the tracks in there. That is as basically easy as it gets. Then we have the new series. So just to put you side by side here, and I will just, if I can, move it over so you can see at this picture behind, we've got tyre management now and power unit for Silverstone in Series 2, whereas you can see in our Series 12 from this season, we had nothing there like that at all. So maybe this is something that players have been crying out for. They want a bit more change, a bit more requirement when it comes to racing. Now, it makes sense. F1, real life, they go through practice sessions, they find the best setups, the best loadouts in a way, what degrees they want to put the car, what angles, what levels, ride heights, they all go through and change it. They never keep the same setup. So I think it absolutely makes sense for F1 Clash to go and put in a specific stat per track, which is powerful, and then adding a second stat, which can change. I think that's going to be really, really good. You're no longer going to see the same cornering setup over and over again. I think now when it comes to duels and GPs, it's going to be a lot more interesting how these races go. Looking forward to that very much so. Looks like a coin change as well. You will notice here. Now, I'll wait to see if this is examples by Hutch or real. 150,000 coins was the entry fee for Series 12. Look at Series 7, 590,000. So coins change hugely. So it's interesting to know what happens with the coins. Let's move further down then. So after that big change, setups, loadouts going to be very different this season. No more just cornering. Removing reliability, servicing, and player breakdown. So in a nutshell, you will no longer get the reliability. So you see here on this setup in the bottom right-hand screen, you have got reliability. That is now removed, and that is changed with qualifying. So you can see here, as we make that just a little bit, let's make it really big so you can see it better. You can see right-hand screen, you have got the qualifying stat, and that now is there instead of reliability. You can see you've got the get my words out, qualifying now on the car component, and you've got qualifying in the driver, which has always been there, and them two will add up in the background to determine your qualifying position. So reliability is gone. That is very nice. You can see this is the new HUD. So really, before, where I find reliability, we had this just above my head here, and I will just move this. We had servicing, the purple spanner at the bottom, and we had to watch that every time. We had to determine when we pit because we didn't want to break down. We've all saw Lando Norris AI break down every single week, and it is pretty annoying to be able to watch. F1 don't have to go through any such thing like that. So I think that's a really good choice to remove the breakdown aspect. Now, us players will no longer break down. However, your AI can still break down. So the AI you're against can still break down. Now we can see the HUD up here. That is now what your game is going to look like. So no more focusing at the bottom on what? Your servicing, your tyres and your power unit. Now it is simply just the tyres. It is replaced by nothing, and it just sits with tyres at the bottom. So you literally only have to focus on that. Power unit, we knew that was at the bottom in the HUD before, but that has now changed. So where you can see we attack with the free versions of aggressive, medium and conserve, you can now see your power unit sits relative to that. Really good change, I think, because we use our thumbs to be able to attack, or your fingers, whichever way you want to go. So I think if that power unit bar is right next to you, I think that's a decent change, and it keeps it very, very simple in this HUD bit here as well. Now you might see just on the Verstappen car here, last season in the 2023 version, we had attack or defend notification above the driver's head in the race. Obviously, a little bit clogs up the screen, so they have moved that into the HUD, a team radio type feel, and it is simply attack or defend within that HUD area. Nice little improvement. I think that is a very good aesthetic on the face, a nice improvement indeed. That moves us to qualifying. So obviously we've just showed you what it is, but obviously removal of reliability stat means that they've now replaced that with the qualifying stat, and they've added the qualifying to component and the driver, which was already there last season, to basically equal your stat. So as an addition to a further qualifying stat does result in change to how qualifying works in 2024. Now in 2023, what happened was you had to have the most speed, cornering and reliability as well as driver to be able to determine your most total points, and that equates to your qualifying positions. So this is how it now works. So at the beginning of the qualifying process, an average lap time is determined for each specific track. A player's total qualifying stat, which is the driver and the car stat, is combined, and it's used to determine a qualifying time range that the two cars achieve. That's when you see them go round the track before you race. The qualifying time is then compared with all other opponents to determine a player starting position. So while a higher qualifying stat does not always guarantee a starting position higher than your opponent, if two players achieve the same qualifying time, the player with the higher qualifying stat will receive the better starting position. So basically, if you've got the highest qualifying stat, you are going to finish ahead, potentially. So I think it's nice and simple there. I think a lot of players in previous seasons didn't really understand how the qualifying worked unless you went into the FAQs. So now that we've got it on car, we've got it on driver, and you total the two together, it's going to make it really easy to determine how that is. Now, at the moment, we don't know how effective it is going to be on the car. That is something that we are going to have to learn as we launch into 2024 season. Makes it simple for players. I think this is really good so far. Track stats, which are separate and individual for each track or each tracks. Different setups each time. Love that. I think that's absolutely great. Reliability removed. I think that's a good choice. And now we have the qualifying on the car, which makes sense because qualifying for a car and a driver is what happens in the real F1 world as well. And then we have one of the biggest changes that is coming up. So we have got the Grand Prix event grouping change. So beforehand, if you want to know, you were judged on your season high flags. So when you raced your GP group at the weekend and in qualifying in the week, we're basically grouped together by this, the series and the flags. So you can see I was in series 12. My season high flags is 7,475, and you will be matched in your GP group with roughly people around the same season high flag count. This is why people used to drop their flags down so that they could get easier groups and sit a lot lower. Even I did that, and I'm not afraid to admit it because that was one of the metas in the game. But that is now going to change. Instead, Grand Prix event grouping changes will be based on your current and your past performances in your Grand Prix events, so whether it's Challenger, Contender, Junior or Champion, any of them. So let's say I take a P3 for the last 5 events. It might be that I am grouped with a lot of players who have got P3 or around the P3. If you're finishing P50 multiple times, expect your groups to gradually increase in getting easier because it's going to group you with players of the same sort of skill level. So basically, like a ranked version, the stronger that you perform in GP, the harder your groups will become. The weaker you perform in your GP groups, the easier your GP groupings will come. Now, we all know that if you were playing this game this season and the last, that if you raced through to Series 12, you would struggle to qualify for a GP because your flag count, your season high, your green flags, was far too high. Now that should change. If you struggle to get through, you should be matched with players who also struggle to get through. That, I think, is pretty fair. It makes some fair racing. It could still be exploited. I think this one's up for debate, though, with players. We're all going to wait to see how that performs. Now, we've seen some of that happen already this weekend, which made it pretty mad groupings, but that is based on some players' results too. Interested to see it. Players have called for a long time for Grand Prix event groupings to change. They have, so let's see how they go. Next up then, we have got the race HUD. So we've showed you that already just above. Attack and defend is now in the driver section at the bottom, and you now only have pit stop and your tyres at the bottom, and your power unit moves to your engine mode. So another very nice improvement visually there as well. Now, we know that we have lost reliability. That has been removed from the game. Okay, so with that being removed, we know we have a lot of boosts out there that are also having reliability on them, and then boosts will need to change. So if you've got any of these boosts on the left-hand side, they will change for the new season. So Frost, Tulip, Voice, Cranberry, Shuna, Nazar, all will change. And that you can see on the right-hand side, 2 of the stats will remain the same, but in blue or whatever color it is on your screen, on the right-hand side, you will see the new stat and you will see what it is. There's some interesting ones out there to take a look at. You've got just looking at, there's ones that you've got Nazar, which was race start, tyre management and reliability. It is now cornering, race start and tyre management. Very good boost indeed now, I think, potentially going into the new season. So if you've got any of these boosts, you may be in for a windfall if they're really good, because they weren't very usable before. Now they're almost a little bit better to use too. We then come on to stat cap changes. So 2023 season, each individual driver had a maximum stat of 99. You could never pass that 99 stat, even if you boosted the driver. If you boosted them, it only ever went to 99. Your car parts could never go past 50 at the same time. So one noticeable change regarding both these stats in the 2024 season is the ability for stats to be increased above the maximum value. So no more cap of 99, no more driver cap or car cap at 50. You can go above them. So driver stats will continue to have a maximum base value of 99, so the maximum base, while component stats have increased to 60 as their base value. Both the stats increase, and I'll show you where I am, for featured assets in specific Grand Prix events, and the use of boost consumables can increase the stat. What we're basically saying there is, let's look at Charles Leclerc, for example. They are using the instinct boost, but he's got a defending of 99. Now, if you added a boost which had defending of 10, his new defending is going to be 109. Or if you've got a 10% boost for the weekend GP on Leclerc, his defending would go to 108. So really, the base values remain the same. They can't go above 99. But if you apply a boost, or you apply a 10% boost of the weekend's GP, then you can go past it. Now, that is interesting for the race start. So we don't have a qualifying boost, first of all, but race start could be better. So you've got 89. If you added a 25 race start to that, I mean, I'm not going to give maths great at all. 114, maybe, somewhere along that. You can come and hit me in the comments that my maths awful. So your race start could go a lot higher. So that's going to be very interesting, especially for the AI. Remember, the AI, if they get a 10% stat bonus for a weekend, theirs will also go past it. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that works. But remember, no max stats when you apply a boost now. So you can use them boosts very differently this season. And then coming to the end of the changes, we have got Grand Prix reward changes. So from the beginning of the 2024 season, players who compete in Grand Prix events and achieve the best results could see more valuable asset rewards across all difficulty tiers. Players will no longer receive coins, that's a big one, as a part of the rewards, while players will continue to be able to earn coins normally in other areas. So once one big change then, so coins are now gone from your GP rewards. That does mean that you're going to have to race a fair amount up here to get the coins you need to enter your GP series, or watch adverts, open crates, you name it. But that does mean you're going to have to race to earn your coins unless Hutch drops something in any other way. That's interesting. I wish they keep coins in there, because I think that does allow you to upgrade more based off a good result. But that's interesting to see how they get that balance right. This season, that is most of the changes covered. Matchmaking doesn't have a specific labelled change, but we have seen some changes this weekend with some very weird matchups. So do keep an eye out for matchmaking changes in the new season or down the line. Few things to point out, and I will put the video in the description down below. Club tournaments will be coming later in the season, not going to be launched straight away, but we will leave that in the description down below. Go and take a look. It's basically going to be a tournament that starts on a Thursday and a Friday, and you will compete against other teams to get prizes, as well as your own members. The more you race, the better prize you may get. I'll release that into the description. Collection milestones you might have seen so far. These are the milestones that every time you upgrade and you earn so many points, you get the next milestone drop. They will come later in the season as well. They are not out at the start, from what I expect. And legendary drivers as well. They will not be released at day one. These will come later in the year. I think Hutch may still have some licensing issues in there too. So these expected, you'll use your current drivers and they may get dropped later in the year. Another thing that they mentioned is the Champions Grand Slam. So Hutch are looking to introduce something later in the season for players who have maxed out all of their flags from all of their series. So if they have gone through and let's say they fill up every single series, obviously there is not then much to play for apart from your GP events. So Hutch want to create this Champions Grand Slam series to reward those players who have in theory completed the normal series. So keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for more news as well. But that is mainly our season change. Some big changes on the way. We have got, obviously, Grand Prix event changes. We have got track stats for specific tracks. We've got reliability is now gone, qualifying's in, and so many more improvements. Let me know down below, what do you think of these changes? Are you for them? Are you against them? Or what ideas do you have? Because I think they're not too bad, and I'm looking forward to enjoying playing the new season.